Welcome to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast will contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews of newly released films, please check out our channel Reviews Without Remorse on YouTube and VidMe. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show. Welcome to episode number 35 of Reviews Without Remorse. I am Joe, and I am tired of trying to come up with creative intros, so this is my friend Dave. Dave, what do you got for me?
I was kind of really enjoying your creative intros, and I'm very disappointed in you that you've given up.
My creative fumbling around trying to come up with something funny every week.
After 35 freaking episodes, now you give up? My gosh. I don't believe it. This is a speed bump. That's all this is, ladies and gentlemen. You know what it is? To give a little bit of inside baseball, we just spent the better part of 40 minutes trying to connect, and turns out Skype is down. Go fig.
Yes, it is. So we will make do. On today's episode, Dave and I are going to talk just a tiny bit more about Blade Runner 2049. We had mixed reviews. A lot of people loved it, so we'll talk about it some more. The Last Jedi trailer dropped. Do we care? Are we interested? We'll talk about it. Coincidentally, the Stranger Things Season 2 trailer also dropped. We will discuss, and of course, Black Panther, the official trailer. And we'll talk about it. And then this week, Dave and I will change it up a little bit. We're going to do a TV series. This week, it's Stranger Things.
And there are a lot of Stranger Things going on in the world today, so there should be.
Yes, there are.
There is an order to things. That's what we do here. We keep order. The world is built on a wall that separates kind. Tell either side there's no wall, you bought a war.
So, Blade Runner 2049. We both, I haven't finished listening to the rest of last week's podcast as of yet. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not a narcissist. It's more along the lines of I'm trying to listen to feel how I can improve. For example, you think I don't notice that I say, a lot? Oh, I've noticed. And I'm not happy with myself. I practically have a rubber band around my wrist, and every time I hear myself say it, I'm snapping it.
All the ums you hear are only the ums I haven't edited out. So yeah, I know. I listen to him every week as well. I listen to him just to make sure I didn't let something slip by that I shouldn't. So, but anyway, go ahead.
But yes, 2049. So we were both pretty cold on it. Some would say we were a little bit brutal. I know your brother said we were probably a little harsher on it than it seems to be. But, ladies and gentlemen, and here's the thing. When we did that review, I'm speaking for myself, and I think Joe agrees with me on this. We talked how we felt at the time and what it made us feel at the time. Is it possible that this movie might grow upon us? Maybe we had too high an expectation. Maybe we had too low an expectation. Hard to say. But we stand by what we say, even though I've actually had conversations now that kind of make me feel like, well, maybe the replicant pregnancy is possible. But I still kind of feel like they could have made it a tiny more plain than they did in the movie. I'm not apologizing for my review. I'm sticking with the review that I have now. Because of the semi-backlash, I am definitely going to revisit it when it comes out on video, and maybe we'll give it another shot then. But, give us a break, folks. This is how we felt when we saw it.
Yeah, I'm feeling very similar. Like I said, it was, it's funny. You mentioned my brother. Yeah, we talked on the phone after he heard the podcast, and it was funny because he and I, we talked for a little bit, and we were both very much in agreement on a lot of things. But he said to me, well, first of all, he said to me, he goes, look, you guys have to stop butchering this poor man's name. It's not Dennis Villeneuve, okay? He's not Spanish. He's French-Canadian. It's not Hervé Villachez. It's not Dennis Villalegre. It is Denis Villeneuve. Get it right.
Denis Villeneuve.
So, and yeah, but he, like I said, he was in agreement with a lot of things we talked about. But then he's like, but a 5. Wow, that was harsh. And I was like, yeah, you know what? It kind of is. It is harsh, and it was funny. And even last week when we were talking, I said I was really anxious to hear what people thought about this film. Because I was thinking to myself, people are either going to love it or they're going to hate it. Some people had mixed reviews, kind of like we did, and other people just thought it was a runaway smash hit, A+, 10 out of 10, right out of the gate. Mm-hmm. And, and I did say to myself, I kind of paused, and I said, well, maybe if, a 5 actually is pretty rough. I gave Rocky 4 a 7 for crying out loud, and I gave this one a 5. And, this is a very, very competent film. The look alone. Roger Deakins' cinematography is probably going to get him an Oscar nomination, if not an Oscar. Is it fair to give it a 5? Well, like you said, I'm going to stand by it. I always reserve the right to change my mind later and say, look, I needed some time. I'm definitely going to revisit this one again, for sure. There's no doubt about it. I want to watch it again. I want to see if I have a different feel from it the next time around. Maybe there's more to it that I'm missing. But I did feel like, the plot is quirky. The idea of the pregnant replicants, like we said, I don't know. I'm not buying it. And unless I'm missing a big piece of that puzzle, which maybe to some people it's more obvious than it was to me. Again, I did kind of go in. Maybe it's fair to say that I had a preconceived notion about what a replicant is. And maybe my interpretation is not correct. Although I do, the scenes when they birth these replicants like they're people, maybe that's, again, I said, well, maybe they're clones, maybe they're this. And I'm talking about it like this is some sort of a breakthrough, but maybe people sort of already understand that. But then I go back to the guy, the toy maker. I'm saying to myself, but that doesn't make any sense because he's not birthing replicants. He looks like he's tinkering, like he's putting together, parts. Mm-hmm. So again, maybe my interpretation is wrong. Maybe I got to watch it again and, give it a second thought. Because again, I did feel like a 5 is probably pretty cold. But, like I said, this was the first impression. It didn't really wash over me. It didn't click the way I was hoping it would. And maybe I kind of held it to a too high of a standard, and maybe I was a little too harsh. But like I said, I will definitely revisit this again before the end of the year. For all I know, for all the complaints and all the 5s I gave it, maybe it's going to even end up on my top 10 for all I know. Because, again, it is a very competent film. I will not... there's a competent director, competent actors. The performances are fantastic. The look is fantastic. But, I just felt the story didn't grab me. There was something that was really missing that I just couldn't get my arms around it. But like I said, we'll talk about it again. The end of the year is coming when we're going to do our top 10 and our stink bombs. I'm sure it'll come up again. So
for sure.
We'll revisit it.
And
I'm anxious to revisit it because I think this is an interesting film because it's probably going to be a divisive film. So I'm open to looking at it again and discussing it more.
Can we promise that if we do get to discussing it, that we do get Denis Villeneuve, as I said again? Can we promise we'll get that? Denis Villeneuve. Yeah, we need to get that down before next time because it really, now that I know how it's said, I kind of feel really embarrassed. Sorry.
I actually had to look up a YouTube video on how to pronounce it. There was a girl who literally does a video just on how to pronounce that name alone.
Villeneuve. Okay, I'll never remember that.
When I found you, I saw raw, untamed power. And beyond that, something truly special.
Onto well, I can't even say it's a lighter note because, man, that trailer was pretty dark.
Yeah, what'd you think?
Oh, just going right for the impressions, huh? Star Wars: The Last Jedi. First of all, you people can say what they want about Disney and their marketing department. Those guys know how to cut a trailer. You got to give them that. That was definitely a trailer of misdirection, of teasing and misleading.
Yes.
That whole thing with him with Kylo Ren flying his bastardized version of a Millennium Falcon meets Darth Vader's TIE fighter, and aiming at the bridge of the ship that allegedly Princess Leia is on, General Leia is on, and he's got his finger on the trigger and stuff. That was good stuff. I thought Mark Hamill's line of "It didn't scare me then, it scares me now." I thought that was very telling as well.
I've seen this raw strength only once before. It didn't scare me enough then. It does now.
And here's the thing. It does excite me to see the movie, but I'm not 100% sure it's truly representative of what the movie is. There's a lot of elements in there that they're implying. That Rey's going to go to the dark side. That Luke,
Right.
is scared to train her because she's going to go dark side because she decides, well, if Luke's not going to train me, I'm going to find anybody that will. And I kind of feel like if that's given away in the trailer, that's almost like too much. So I don't know. I enjoyed it. I thought it's beautiful. I think Rian Johnson's going to direct the ever-living heck out of this. I mean, it seemed like everybody was acting like better, I guess I want to say. They seemed to really be into their characters. And there were a couple of cool elements. I liked when I liked when he sat there and he had that expression on his face, whether or not he was going to shoot at his mom's ship. I liked when Finn went up against Captain Phasma. I was like, that's something I want to see. And Andy Serkis's voiceover in the beginning as Snoke is just freaking phenomenal as far as I'm concerned. That man can do freaking anything. And, again, manipulative. We're led to believe he's talking about Kylo Ren. It's very possible he's talking about Rey. So it could go either way.
Yeah. I agree with that. And I'll tell you, I do like the fact that it's manipulative because I like... It's because I'm getting tired of trailers giving so much away that I don't mind some misdirection, if that's what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Even we talked about the Spider-Man Homecoming trailer, how it was loaded up on Iron Man.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't that way. And I predicted, and I think my prediction was correct, that, they were sort of amping this up in the trailer, so we'd be pleasantly surprised that he's not all over it in the actual film. Why that was, I'm not sure, but I think there was a method to the madness. Similar here. I'm going to take a guess and say that it's not exactly cut and dry the way it's being proposed, and good for him, if that's the case.
Yeah.
Having said that, I still can't say I'm all that excited about it, only because the first one left me so flat. I frankly don't know if they can come back from it. So I got my fingers crossed that they can sort of pull a rabbit out of the hat with this one and kind of get back on track. But we'll see. I don't know. But having said that, the trailer was good. Good-looking trailer. I'm sure it's going to be a fine film. Not going to be a boring 2 hours for sure, so we'll see.
Man, that is the least... Dude, you could be reading your shopping list to me. That's how excited you sound. Okay. And I'm going to go get some eggs and some butter. After that, I'm probably going to fry up a steak in a cast iron pan. I'm going to do a reverse sear. Reverse sears are the way to go nowadays.
Yeah. Kylo Ren may kill his mother, he may not. I don't know.
Oh, maybe. Raggy, you think you will?
On Halloween night, Will saw a sort of shadow. Maybe all of this is happening for a reason.
These are not nightmares. It's happening. And it all leads back to here.
On to even more darker notes. I mean, seriously, we're going down the darkness scale.
Yeah, right, yeah. Down the rabbit hole.
Stranger Things, the final trailer came out today, and... Well, not today, but... wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I was kind of floored, to be honest with you. You sent that to me, and I was like, dude, I'm actually, trying to avoid it because I really don't want to get spoiled or anything like that. And you were all kind of nice about it and everything like that. And like, literally, I'd say 5 minutes later after you said, you sent it to me, and I replied, I'm waiting, and you didn't reply for a while, and then you finally replied, it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. And within 5 seconds after you said that, yeah, well, too late, I've seen it.
Right.
And man,
yeah, it's hard to resist.
Man, was that a trailer? Holy smokes!
Yeah.
I feel like I watched so much in that 2 minutes. It's so. First of all, the previous trailers kind of pointed more at the nostalgia more than the actual plot line. This is the first one that gives you an idea of what the plot line is this season, and I just felt compelled. Very, 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 very compelled just watching it.
Yeah.
The idea that Will... I mean, I have my suspicions... We'll talk about it when we get to the Stranger Things review, but I have my suspicions where they're going with the Will plot. The giant thing, the upside down, oh my god, just... It looked intensely action-packed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It does... It's funny because in some ways it looks different. Like, I mean, the first one was obviously about him getting pulled into the other dimension, right, and going missing. Mm-hmm. This one looks like the opposite, where something came out, sort of followed him home, but it's so alien looking that it almost looks like a completely different theme, sort of like a whole different genre, where like we're now going to deal with like a space alien, and it almost has a look like the Space Invaders alien in a way. So yeah, I find it kind of fascinating. I'm very, as opposed to Last Jedi, I am incredibly anxious for this one. I really can't wait. I think if it's half as competent as the first season, it's going to be spectacular. Even if it's not as good, I just want more. So I'm really looking forward to this one.
And I guess with that, that's a little spoiler alert towards your review.
Pretty much.
But we've got the bleakness of Blade Runner. We've got the sadness, and let's face it, there's one of the things we didn't mention about the Star Wars trailer, the idea that, like, with Carrie Fisher's death, and they're, like, teasing the character's death now, they were really trying to pull the emotional, so that kind of went into a dark place. The darkness of Stranger Things to the brightness and colorfulness of Wakanda.
I have seen gods fly. I've seen men build weapons that I couldn't even imagine. I've seen aliens drop from the sky.
Yeah.
But I have never seen anything like this.
How much more are you hiding?
Hold up. Let's go.
Yes, the brightness and beauty of Wakanda. The land that is 10 years ahead of any westernized civilization in Marvel Comics. What did you think, Joe? Because I think the audience can tell by the way I'm talking about it what I thought.
It's hard to say. I almost felt like this one didn't even give you as much as the first ones did. I almost felt this one was more style and not so much plot points, although I could just sort of be misreading it. Looks great. Looks very interesting. The idea of this city, and again, I don't remember the comics too well. I don't remember I remember Black Panther as sort of a guest star in a lot of other comics, but I don't remember a lot about Wakanda and that sort of stuff. I don't remember it being like a futuristic city, but I'm sure it was.
Yep.
And so this is going to be weird. It's going to be weird because, like I said, it's almost like the Tony Stark technology beyond in this small little hidden country. And I find it fascinating because, again, I feel like this is, I like that the Marvel films are kind of graduating towards the more fantastic, the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Infinity Wars, and now the Wakanda, where it's a futuristic city. They're gonna get a lot more wild and fantastic, and I like it. Yeah. I'm really excited about it. They've really, again, if anybody's heard me talk about any Marvel movie ever, I'm pretty much constantly just raving about how great they are. So I have no doubt in my mind this one's going to be fantastic. It looks edgier. The music was pretty cool. So again, they seem to tackle every genre successfully. I have no doubt in my mind that this one's going to be great. And I'll be shocked if it's not. If it's anything less than stellar, I'll be surprised.
17 years ago, when the first X-Men was introduced, the excuses that they gave for why they wouldn't give them their costume is that they said there's no way to translate that to screen. Marvel has, in the span of 10 years, slowly gotten the audience to accept the idea of the fantastic to the point that you can now do a movie like this. When they got to Guardians of the Galaxy, they were trusting that the audience had come along so far that they were ready for now the stranger elements and the weirder side of comics. And once that was a hit, anything was possible. And since then, we've had Doctor Strange. Now we've got Black Panther. These are characters that are outstanding in their own comics that I never thought would see the light of day simply because of that old Hollywood, well, we can't really do it because it just won't translate to screen very well, so we have to interpret it. And now, and that we've gone from that careful way that Favreau pieced out Iron Man to respect the comic but make it accessible to now the audiences are more than willing to accept this type of thing. Everybody I talk to who sees this trailer thinks it's freaking amazing.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree, and I think the way you said it was absolutely right. They were very careful. They led us down the correct road, and I think it's been just amazing, actually.
A hell of a ride. 10 years their 10-year anniversary is coming up, and when that hits, the fit's gonna hit the shan.
It's amazing, right?
Indeed. But yes, very much looking forward to Black Panther. That is definitely one that I'm going to be reviewing here when it comes out.
This is Hawkins. I know the worst thing that's ever happened here in the 4 years I've been working here. It was when an owl attacked Eleanor Gillespie's head because it thought that her hair was a nest.
Young boy disappears. His mother, a police chief, and his friends must confront terrifying forces in order to get him back. Created by the Duffer Brothers, ladies and gentlemen, Stranger Things, a Netflix original series. 8 episodes.
Yep, 8 episodes.
Okay, so first a tiny bit of an admission. When we came back to this, when we decided we were going to do this, one of the things I said to myself was, in order for me to review this honestly, the first thing I have to do is I have to move past nostalgia. Because part of the things that made me attracted to the show was the nostalgia of the time frame. These kids are basically me when I was a kid. In some ways you, although you were probably cooler than me. So that bit of nostalgia I had to get past, because I knew that if I got stuck in the nostalgia, I would gush more about the show than maybe it deserved. And I decided I'm going to look at it from a character's perspective, I'm going to look at it from a story perspective, and the way that it evolves. And guess what? It still stands up.
Yep.
The 80s trapping is nothing more than a background. It is not an element of the show. It can be a big element to the show to some people, but even if you remove all of that, it's still compelling.
Yeah, I agree with what you said in spirit, but I'm gonna sort of disagree and put it a different way. I found that the nostalgia part of it was sort of superficial. First of all, when you first get into this series, it's very easy to get washed over by the idea that this is. It strikes you as like if Steven Spielberg directed a Stephen King novel and threw in some John Carpenter music. So yes, it is a jolt of that 80s style. However, there are plenty of films that, and again, I'm just going to sort of build on what you said, and I think you're going to agree with me wholeheartedly. that this is sort of what you mean as well. There are plenty of films that are more than happy to do a film that is set in a different time frame, yet you're still looking at it through a modern lens. I find that this film, this series, totally submerges you in the idea that this was not only that the story is taking place in the 80s, but that you went back in time and plucked the best filmmakers from the 80s to do this series and to do it in the same style that we got some of the greatest films in history, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, this is the style to me of E.T., of Stand By Me, of and even it's a period piece, so it doesn't really work as well, but Raiders of the Lost Ark. Some of the great 80s films that we got back then were so timeless because they were so well crafted. And to me, the crafting of this series is just like that. And I think that is where that magic really is. Not just that I'm going to see, an 80s movie poster in the background or have some 80s music playing on the side. That's all there. And that little bit of nostalgia works for me just as well. But it is really the overall style that really sort of brings you back to a certain time and place. And again, not to sound like, get off my lawn.
Get off my lawn.
But this is how great films were done back in the 80s that you don't get today. The story structure, everything, the visual style, it's all represented in this series. And I think that is really the overall magic. I mean, again, the story works. Everything in this story works the way it's supposed to. But it is encased in a beautiful 80s style, and I think that is really sort of what kind of makes this series sort of transcend to a higher level.
I do see what you're saying. I 100% do see what you're saying. But if it wasn't for some quality acting, some quality writing, and some quality characters, then all those tricks in the book would be meaningless.
Agreed.
They would just lead to emptiness. And I agree that it does add an element to it, but I think that if this show had been presented without the 80s trappings, I think it would still work. I think that the fact that it does have the trappings of the 80s, the style of the 80s, of some of the finest directors. I mean, the music is such a Tangerine Dream meets John Carpenter mix,
yes.
For God's sakes. That's impossible to, like, there was this one scene that was like, that is such a beat out of The Thing with music. I can't remember the exact scene, but it was just like, that's The Thing music right there.
Yeah.
The opening theme. The opening theme is like any 80s science fiction movie.
So good.
Yes, 100% I do agree with that. But what impressed me more than anything else is you easily could have just done a quote-unquote nostalgia show and just wrapped it up in these cutesy little moments and everything like that. And like he, see, that's kind of like E.T.
Right.
He, that's kind of like, The Thing. But the beauty of this show is that the Duffer Brothers, they don't just love that time frame, which is evident in every scene in The Thing, but they respect it. And they want to say, this felt to me like they were saying, we were born 20 years too late. And we wish we were in that time frame. If we were in that time frame, this is what we would have done. What do you think?
Right. And that goes back to what I said about going back in time and pulling out some of that classic filmmaking talent. Right. I think the Duffer Brothers, again, could have done a film and looked through a modern lens at a different era. It's not that. What they do is they prove to us that they understand why that style of filmmaking worked, why the Spielbergs were so fantastic. And like I said, I mean, I think, like you said, I completely agree with you that it's the story, it's the acting, it's the characters, it's everything. The 80s visual style is what lifts that already great work to a new level, and I think that's why I think it's such a perfect mesh of everything works. The planets align in this series, And again, we haven't even gotten into the story and the characters. Just an overall style of the film just is really captivating. It's again, I mean, I think any person of any age will adore this series, but if you're old farts like us, you will be nostalgic for films that were made back in the 80s.
I find it telling that we referred to it as a series going in, but as you talk about it, you keep saying the word film
Yes.
over and over again. I do find that very telling.
Right, it is. It's very telling because again, that's another thing about this series that I find fascinating is that it's not. I think it sort of straddles the fence between what I would call like a mini series and just a television series. I mean, it works as a long film, like an 8-part film, and I really can't think of a lot of things that are like that because I mean, there's other TV series that are successful, like Lost or whatever. You know, they might have something in mind going in, but if somebody calls them and says, "Hey guys, we're doing really well. You got to make another season or make 8 more episodes," they're like, "Well, what are we going to make them out of?" They'll scramble and they'll come up with something, but then it doesn't really stick to their overall story. Here, you get one solid story told in 8 smaller parts, and the sum total feels like one long film. And again, it breaks it down into small doses. It's what I love about it is that it's like a film, but because it's a series, you can now take time to get to know people, to get to explore different avenues, and you're still not branching off. Like, you know, when you watch like a season of The Sopranos, there's kind of a story happening in the background, but then again, there'll be other shows thrown in there where it's like just an hour-long dream sequence or, you know, something happening over here or over there with this character or that character. Here, the whole series is focused on that central story. They do not deviate in these far directions. I mean, there are subplots. I mean, you know, all the characters do have their own little subplot going on. All of it, I find, is in sequence with the story, is totally in sync with the rest of the story. There is no peripheral fluff to fill time at all. Everything is very focused on the main plot. And if it did deviate, you'd probably feel betrayed in a way. Because, again, the story is about a lost, missing child. So if you went off on some other silly tangent, you'd be like, well, hey, get back to what we're doing here. So, yeah, I just find that part of it fascinating as well.
Well, they did have their little side plots. I mean, you had the plot with 11, who was this mysterious girl, what was the deal with her powers, finding out what her story was.
That's a central component of the story.
But then you have the sister. You have Nancy and Jonathan, for example. And what started out seeming like, you know, oh, what is this, you know, kind of angsty high school teenage stuff, actually does collide with the plot in a meaningful way.
Right.
And one of the elements of that, in fact, that I liked, one of the things that I was pleased with, like, she's dating the big man on campus, Steve Harrington.
Right.
Nancy's dating Steve Harrington.
Yeah. Just the name alone, you know he's going to be a jerk.
Yeah, you know, it's like this guy definitely comes over. But he has an arc himself. Even after you know, the first time Jonathan and Nancy go out to try to find Will and Barb, and he sees them in the bedroom, and he's upset and everything like that. And the friends do the spray paint and stuff. But even then, he's like, his character does kind of grow as the season goes. Yes. So he's not even a complete bad guy, and I love that. I love that, like, you know, his first act of redemption was, you know, can I help you clean the sign? And then his second was when he joined them at the buyer's house to fight off the Demogorgon.
Yes, and again, playing with expectations, because again, when he runs out of the house, she yells at him. She goes, "Get out of here now!" And he grabs his keys and he beats feet. For a second there, you're saying to yourself, okay, the jerky boyfriend now is going to get killed, like, because that's kind of like a slasher movie trope. You know, like the creep guy goes running off, and he's going to get his. But you're right. Instead of that, he turns around, redeems himself, comes back, and fights with them. And I completely agree with you too. And I was biting my lip as you were talking, because I did not want to cut you off, because I was like, yes. I love how none of the characters, or at least most of the characters, for the most part, are not as they seem. Even the sheriff, when he in the first episode, he rolls out of bed, hungover, whatever, shows up at work. They start, here's what's going on. He's like, coffee and contemplation. Like, leave me alone, just go away. And even when, she's, he hears, like, oh, her son is missing. He's like, at first, I'm sure he's off with his friends or whatever. And then, of course, there's Joyce Byers, Winona Ryder, sitting in the office, and he's like, oh, crap. So at first, you don't like him. He kind of comes off as a creep, but then he ends up being the hero of the story, fighting hard to rescue this, like getting really immersed in this mystery and fighting to find Will Byers. So he starts off a little weird. You mentioned Steve Harrington, like you said, total creep. He was complete. I even love at one point when they're having sort of the pool party and they're chugging beers or whatever. She says to him, she goes, "You're a complete cliche." Do you know that? And it's almost like you're speaking, on behalf of the audience, because that character is so one-dimensional. He's a classic preppy, douchey jerk. So yeah, he was like very one-dimensional. Yet you're right. He redeems himself at the end. He comes through, whatever. But even like the kid who plays Lucas, the black kid, he
Caleb McLaughlin,
yes, he was really good, and he has to do like his character. It's interesting. He kind of comes off as like a jerk sometimes, and he's really mean to Eleven. He doesn't like her. Something about her, he just rubs him wrong, and there's a lot of times when he is the one who's yelling, saying, "We need to tell your parents," or "We need to call the cops," or he sort of gets saddled with a lot of the grown-up thinking, I suppose. Where even though he's coming off like a jerk in a way, he is speaking sensibly. He's the voice of reason sometimes.
Exactly. He wasn't. There was nothing unreasonable. I mean, yeah, okay. Maybe he was a little overexcitable, and as they explained later on, that it was a little bit of friendship jealousy, and that's fine. I could buy that at that age. That happened all the time. Girls came into the picture, and guys got jealous of their guy friends wanting to hang out with the girls. Sure. That happened. But still, even with that little element there, it's still, his moves all made sense. Like, yes, that would be the right thing to do. That's the thing that kids are taught, even today. That, X goes wrong, talk to your parents.
Yeah, exactly right. We this is not, like he would say, this is not a game. We need to tell grown-ups. We need to do whatever. So yeah, and I always found that kind of interesting that, yeah, he, at one point, like you said, I mean, you were sort of getting that vibe, like the friend jealousy thing, and I don't like, this girl came along and ruined everything. Yet, he, like you said, he would have to say these things, and it gave his character a little complexity, which I liked.
Yeah. Everybody had a little bit of complexity. David Harbour, who plays Jim Hopper, and I'm so glad you pointed him out. One of the biggest elements about this show I loved was the completely plausible way he goes from this, like, could give two shits about anything that's going on, and watching as he pieces everything together, and when he finally does break into the Department of Energy place, it feels so earned.
Yes.
Like, yeah, he's had enough. He's had enough. It's bad enough he's dealing with his daughter, and oh God, was that a heartbreaking scene?
Yes.
Oh my God.
That was a well done in the finale, especially when they got into that. Yes, that was very well done.
Oh my God, I was lost. I was just lost with that scene. By the way, that's the key scene that I think leads into the second season. We'll get into that in a minute.
Okay.
But yeah, Harbour the guy knocked it out of the park. I mean, this guy's been like a second banana in movies, and here he comes, and he's playing Hellboy now.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, he took over the part of Hellboy, and he looks great in the part.
Oh, I could see that. So, yeah, he was. It's funny. The only thing I ever saw him in, or the only thing I really remembered him in, was Quantum of Solace, where he was kind of like just the jerky, annoying CIA guy who Felix Leiter has to work with. And like he's just there to be unlikable. He's a very one-dimensional character. And so then when I saw him in this, and I kind of went, "Oh wait, that's that guy." Once it was easy for me to fall into the trap of not liking him in the beginning. Then when he kind of rises up and becomes the hero of the story, it's that much more impressive. I mean, So he was really good at this. I thought he was very impressive.
And more credit has to be given to the child actors. We talked about Caleb McLaughlin. Let's talk about Finn Wolfhard as Mike Wheeler.
Yep.
I mean, this kid's now like double trouble. I mean, he does this and then he does it as I mean, that kid's just long career ahead for him.
Agreed.
Really.
Yeah, good stuff. And you're right, he was great in it too, because it was great because, I mean, he could have just sort of played the same exact character in it, yet he actually sort of played it as more like the Quagmire. You're right, like always cracking dirty jokes and stuff, and so yeah, he was very good in that, and yeah, he's excellent in this. He's a terrific lead person as as your protagonist who you're going to follow along. Really good choice. The kid who plays Dustin, love that kid.
Gaten Matarazzo.
Yeah.
Matarazzo, excuse me. Gaten Matarazzo.
Yeah.
Freaking awesome. The heart of the team as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed, yeah. He really does bring no one is weight. There's no extra dead weight in these characters. They all serve a good function. He was great. Lucas is great, obviously. And of course, the girl that plays 11. Wow, is she good.
Millie Bobby Brown.
Yeah.
Did you know she's English?
I did, yeah. I didn't know it when I watched it, but I did see them pop up on a couple talk shows afterwards, and I was very surprised. She was terrific. Again, talk about not much to a limited, not a lot of speaking part in it, but boy does she convey a lot without speaking. So yeah,
her eyes in her mouth, man. She acted with her eyes in her mouth for 90% of the show, and it worked
totally, absolutely.
Just good stuff. Then you got Natalia Dyer as Nancy Wheeler, or as I like to call her, Mia Sarah 2.0.
And it's funny you say that because she looks like her.
Exactly right. You can't.
Yeah.
Gotta wonder if that was part of the casting.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it either. And I'll tell you, and she was great too because she was a great choice because she's very pretty, she's very cute, but she still has that very awkward teenage look. Like she's perfectly age appropriate. Like for a girl who's at the age when sexual pressures are gonna happen and peer pressure and stuff. A good-hearted person, but I thought she looked completely age appropriate for this part. She still had that just enough awkwardness, to make her very sympathetic and you felt for her as she was sort of giving into the peer pressures.
Yeah, it was cringy at times, but in a weird way, it just. Cringy in the respect that oh God, been there. Not cringy in the respect of oh God, terrible acting. Oh God, just like the situation was the cringe.
Yeah.
It was like the best description I can come up with for the older audiences. It's like an episode of Three's Company. They just get themselves in these weird situations where you're like, oh God, no. Yeah, acting wise, the show is top notch. They truly paced the show just about perfectly. The first episode or two is really just character introductions. The big action is, the loss of Will Byers and people trying to come to terms with it. It's around episode 3 that things truly the ball really gets rolling, starting from about episode 3 forward, and it just doesn't let up. And if you get to episode 3 and you get to the end of episode 3, I promise you will not stop until you get to the end of episode 8.
Oh yeah, Mary and I, we lost a lot of sleep when the show first came out. This was one of those, we'd be up late and it would end and we would just look at each other and be like, one more, just one more, right? and yeah, we were
uno más.
Oh my God, it was crazy. Yeah, we could not stop watching this. It got better and better.
Matthew Modine in the part of Dr. Martin Brenner.
Yeah, there you go. Another 80s trope comes back. I got it. It's very well done. Again, Winona Ryder comes back to play the mother, the frantic mother who, she was really good. I almost thought at some point, and I hope in the next season, I mean they were already showing her doing the same, just shaking with the cigarette in her fingers the entire time. I felt like at some points it got almost hard to watch. I mean, I mean, again, a mother looking for her lost child, and not being able to make heads or tails of what's happening. I mean, played it perfectly, because you needed that doubt. You needed people to look at her and say, I can't tell if she's off her rocker or what. You know what I mean? So it was very well
I mean,
played.
she's talking to light bulbs, so yeah,
Right,
people are
yeah.
going to assume.
Yeah. The Christmas lights in the living room was spectacular. But yeah, she was great in this part. But yeah, I mean, there were moments where I was just like, I just can't. It's you wanted to put a pillow over her head. Like, you just felt so sorry for this woman. You couldn't watch her.
Shh. It's okay. It'll be over soon. Shh.
Right? So no, but she was great. And yeah, you get Matthew Modine, another one, an 80s, very familiar face in the 80s. I thought he was very well used in this.
So creepy. Like, I never thought of Matthew Modine as creepy. I always used to think of him as, like, smug and stuff like that. But this was, like, the first time I was like, he's genuinely creeping me out.
Yeah.
It's, just the way he's talking. Right. And, oh, God, just awful. And every time he put her in the tank and she'd be screaming, Papa, Papa, it's like, oh, God, you heartless dick.
Yeah. That was tough, too. That was a very tough watch. Incidentally, by the way, the two that I want to mention, by the way, well, I mean, we're practically going through the entire cast, and there's two that I don't want to leave out. The parents. One of the things I really like about the idea of doing this as a series, like, they get to take more time to explore characters. The parents, I felt like would have easily have been blown off as, like, think of the first 5 minutes of The Breakfast Club, when the kids are all getting dropped off, and each parent is a real jerk who doesn't understand their kids and doesn't relate to the kids or whatever, and just that one-dimensional crummy parent. Here, because we have a little time, we can get to know some of the supporting characters and get to understand that they're not just the parents who don't understand. They are concerned parents. They do understand things. They are there for their children. They don't have to be like one-dimensional villains. Just so the kids can have the spotlight. And I like that. I thought that was pretty good. The father gets a little bit of the. I thought it was very funny that they took time to let you get to know the mother, but the father they completely write off as being just completely aloof, like just in his own little world, could care less, whatever. But the mother was well done, I thought.
That was actually an interesting little element, because they actually do reference it at some point where Jonathan tells Nancy about that the mom made the safe choice marrying her dad because that's what she did, and he was successful, and so on and so forth. And it was, wait, was it Jonathan or was it Steve that said it? One of them said it.
Somebody said, yeah, I know what you mean.
It was brutally cutting, and yet with what we had seen of the two of them leading up to that, it was like, he's right.
Yeah,
he's absolutely right. That's exactly what the nature of the relationship is.
Yeah,
and that's both awesome and sad at the same time.
So yeah, very much. Yeah, very much so. But again, I keep going back to the idea that I love how, because this is done as essentially an 8-part film, that you get time to explore different things. Even the opening, like, it's funny when I rewatched it for the review. I mean, again, I binged watched it when it came out, loved it, and just to get ready for the review, I watched it again, watched the whole series again. One of the things that sort of struck me in the beginning was that the abduction of Will Byers. I mean, again, it opens up with them playing Dungeons and Dragons, which is perfect, by the way. That is so well done. I mean, again, they're playing Dungeons and Dragons, and Will is the one, he rolls the dice at the end, and the dice goes rolling off. They don't know what happened. As he's walking out, he says, the Demogorgon got me, and that's the last thing he says before he takes off, right as he's about to get abducted by the real Demogorgon or whatever. I mean, so that was really well done, but it was funny that I sort of forgot the idea that entire scene, which took a good while, that was before the credits, before the opening credits. So the show really doesn't even start until he's already been abducted. But we've had time to even in that little space of time, we've had enough time to sort of get to know him. You know, like, I mean, the little bit that they give you in that, like, 10 minutes, however long that was, you got to know him a little bit. So I thought that was, again, just really well done. That scene in itself is sort of like a little mini, you know, self-contained scene, the way they did that. I thought it was really fascinating.
And it was, because that's the beauty of doing it in an episodic format. They were able to actually take the time to do that. In a regular movie, that would have been like 2 minutes into the movie, because you got to move the movie along. But this took a good 8 minutes of the opening to get to know, and you still get to know a little of the character. You know that he's a little confused as to what to do, but then he's in a bad situation. So what does he do? He goes out to the shed and he grabs the gun. I mean,
yes,
so telling of like the bravery and strength of this little kid.
Yeah,
you know that it didn't help, but he was a fighter, and that was why when the mother was so adamant that he's okay, you believed her at first.
Yes,
even before you started figuring stuff out.
Do you know Will? Do you know where he is? Hiding. From who?
None of the characters are doing stupid things. So many, you know, I feel like at this point in our series, the whole reviews without remorse thing, I feel like if I'm exhibiting any patterns in how I judge films or TV shows, whatever, when characters do stupid things, that kills it for me. Like even just we talked about Star Trek Discovery. Even all the things that they had already screwed up, I was willing to let go until there were just too many things where I said to myself, that is a dumb move for that character to do. Like, that character's not thinking past the next chess move. That's when it loses me. So here, I feel like all the characters are doing smart things. No one is doing something dumb. You know, like at every turn, when they're talking through something or, you know, just doing whatever, everybody's doing something smart. Like, you're saying to yourself, that's kind of what I would do. Like you said, the kid runs out to the shed to grab a gun, and he loads the gun. It's not like some of these movies where if somebody's running, they have to trip. If they have the gun, they have to
drop a bullet.
Right, exactly. They have to shake when they're trying to load the gun and the bullets go falling down. No. He does everything right. He does everything the way he's supposed to do. It doesn't work because of what happens, but still, he did things the right way. So again, you're not distracted by, oh, don't go in there kind of stuff. You know what I mean? The whole thing was it was a smart screenplay. It was really good.
It's a smart script from beginning to end, smart acting, smart directing, just the special effects were outstanding.
Yes.
I love how you saw but didn't quite see the Demogorgon, and it just kind of made it even more malevolent.
Yes.
The way that its head kind of opens up.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
like the head of a Dilophosaurus from Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Just such great stuff. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, I hinted at it during the review of the trailer, and now I'm going to mention it here. What are we seeing in Stranger Things 2? Well, if the first season of Stranger Things 2, you look at the trailer for Stranger Things 2, season 2, and the one thing you notice is, like, we've been talking about it as if it was just a long form film. Even the trailer made it like it was the sequel to a long form film. It didn't say Stranger Things season 2. It just said Stranger Things 2.
Right. Yes.
The Duffer Brothers are probably on a similar wavelength. If the first season was pretty much the Duffer Brothers' interpretation of it, I think that the second season, you were saying how it was looking different. Second season might feel a little bit more like Alien, because you had that scene at the end of the first season.
I know where you're going. Go ahead.
Yeah, where Will had the thing down his throat and everything like that.
The face sucker.
Yeah, the face sucker type thing.
Right.
I feel like what's happening is this, like the aliens, when they would capture people to get impregnated with more aliens. I think that he was getting transformed into a Demogorgon, and that's why he can jump between the Upside Down and our world. Because if the Demogorgon was able to jump between the Upside Down and our world pretty much at will, and now Will can.
Yeah. Well, okay. I don't know.
It's a theory. It's a hypothesis. It's
Yeah.
just my hypothesis.
Okay. No, I mean, I like it. I like it. I didn't know if I got the idea that Will can now go back and forth, but well, actually, no, you're right. You're absolutely right, because they do show like
that quick shot at the end.
Yeah, and the scene in the arcade, he walks out, and all of a sudden, like everybody vanishes, and he walks out, and it's okay.
And in the last episode on Christmas, when he goes to the bathroom and washes his hands, he coughs.
Right.
Something green comes out of his mouth, and when he touches the side, boom! It turns into the upside down version of the Byers house.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. I agree with you. I think that is absolutely where that is going to go. Yeah. I don't. You know, when you said he's going to turn into a Demogorgon,
That probably not that far. Probably not that far.
Or just carried one back.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Or maybe just was enough into the process that he can now fade between the two worlds. Just not far enough to actually become.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how they're going to explain it or how they're going to do it, but that's just my own personal hypothesis. I'm sticking with that. And in 2 weeks, we'll probably be discussing it and figure it out.
Yeah. Well, because I'm going to be away for a couple of weeks, which will not affect our schedule, by the way, but I pretty much told Mary, I said, I don't care what you do while I'm gone. You got to promise me one thing. Do not watch Stranger Things 2 until I get home.
Oh.
So I might be a little behind on, hey, look, I don't care. I don't ask for much, but you will wait for me to watch Stranger Things 2.
Damn it, lady. I have not asked for that three-way. I'm asking you to hold out.
Yeah, so I might be a little slow in reviewing it. You might have some things to say about it, spoiler free, I hope. But yeah,
I will not spoil. I will not spoil a damn thing with you. But I may tease you with oh Joe, oh Joe, oh man, you have no idea what you're missing, Joe. And you'll be like, I hate you.
So, and incidentally, by the way, just to kind of, again, I feel like I keep harping on this idea, but because they had the luxury of taking a little time, I noticed that after the climax in the last episode, they still had a lot more time to, the after the climax and everybody kind of lives happily ever after, and we kind of sum up and we see what everybody's doing. They got enough time to sort of do that worked pretty well too. Like you said, the scene with them at Christmas dinner, and he goes up and coughs a thing, but he goes back. I mean, they show him in the hospital. The kids, they reunite, and then he recovers, and then they show Nancy and Steve Harrington now are still dating, and she even gives Jonathan the new camera. A lot of nice.
After it got broke.
Yeah. And again, that right, and another nice way to sort of make Steve Harrington's character redeem himself, because again, he was the one who busted the camera, so he
bought it for him.
Yeah, and didn't even take the credit, by the way, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like he just did because he wanted to do it. He didn't need the accolades, which I thought was pretty cool.
And and which explains why in the new trailers he seems to be all over it as kind of a good guy. So there you go.
Yeah, I did like the last shot when Dustin's like, okay, you need the bat. What bat?
You still have that bat?
Bat? What bat?
One with the nails.
Dustin looked taller in that shot too, man.
It's going to be interesting because these kids are at that age where just 1 year difference is going to be noticeable. If they're going to do a couple of these, do them quick.
Yeah, seriously. Well, let's get into the summation part of this little area. I mean, obviously, we're both enamored with the show.
Yeah.
9 out of 10. What did you give it?
I'm gonna give it a 9, and frankly, I don't even know why I'm not giving it a 10. Only I just feel like it's they probably have left it open that they can do even better if they want. But I think this show is easily 9. I think it's got to be one of the best TV series that I've ever seen. Frankly, I really can't think of a lot that are better. I mean, we are living in a day where television has done a comeback, and there are some great series out there. Mr. Robot, Westworld, some great ones. This one, to me, again, as something that is one whole, like I said, it feels like one solid film, and at no part do I feel them sort of going off on a different direction to fill some time or anything. Everything feels so coherent. It really has to be one of the best shows I've ever seen. And like I said, the story is spectacular. The acting, the characters are all fantastic. And again, the fact that they do an 80s, the show is set in the 80s, yet done with the 80s style. That it really feels like somebody just made this 40 years ago and put it in like a a time capsule.
A time capsule.
And we just found this today and opened it up and said, "Wow, this is great. Where have they been hiding this all along?" You know, so that, I mean, I really do find it to be just sort of amazing. So I'm gonna give this sucker a 9.
And I'm right there with you, dude. I vacillated between a 9 and a 10. I went down to a 9. No fault to the show. I had one nitpicky problem with it, which we'll get into when we get to Who Asked You. The show is just brilliant. It's fun. It's not only a compelling show. It's not only an intelligent show. It's not only a show that, you know, plays logically and plays fair with the audience.
Yes, good point.
And still manages to still be compelling and make all the characters breathe life into these characters and make them all real. And that's a huge accomplishment for any form of entertainment. This is probably Netflix's crown jewel, right next to, you know, the Marvel shows and House of Cards. And yeah, 9 out of 10 easily. I'll be honest with you, unless they seriously screw up season 2, I don't see that score going down for season 2. That's, you know, they'd have to. I'm curious where they're going to go, and it's very easy to screw up after such a good, strong start. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But yep, I gave it a 9.
Yeah, you're right. They don't even have to do. I don't need the next season to be bigger and better. I just want more, just more of the same.
Yeah. So who asked you?
You know, this is, again, kind of nitpicky, but I raved so much about how all the characters seemed so dimensional. No one was as they seemed. You know, it always felt like, you know, even if you didn't like this one in the beginning, he's going to turn around or whatever. Kind of staying in line with the Stephen King world where the bullies are just downright evil. Again, I don't know where that man grew up, but again, knowing what I know, and it's funny we didn't really mention this too much, but you know, I guess we talked about this before about how this show was originally done as a pitch to redo It. So another reason why I think that Stephen King feel is there.
Well, they definitely referenced Stephen King a couple of times too.
Yeah, it does, which was interesting. But the bullies that pick on the kids, then again, one of them is so crazed, and I like how they played it, because they did make this kid pee his pants in front of the whole school. So I could almost buy that the kid kind of just goes a little crazed and takes it to the next level, where he actually pulls a knife and makes the kid jump off the cliff. I mean, but that kid could have got killed. I mean, like that's some height. That's not just
that was Psycho territory.
Yeah, that was kind of Looney Tunes. And the friends of Steve Harrington. Now again, I get it that, you know, Steve was kind of a little bit of a douche in the beginning, and then he hangs around with the jerky friends. But I thought, again, the friends were just so evil. You know, like the couple, the other guy and the girl, were just so evil to the core. I felt like it's almost like they wake up in the morning just like, okay, what evil can I do today? You know, so I kind of felt, yeah. And it's almost like, and right as Steve is having a little bit of a you know, okay, maybe I was a little too hard on her. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. That wasn't really that cool. Like the other two just gotta double down and like, no, we must do evil. You know, like, so I think if I had if there's any chink in the armor, I felt like those characters were a little one-dimensional and a little just kind of over-the-top bad guys, which I kind of felt like. I mean, I understand kids are cruel to other kids. You know, that is true. And it certainly would not be beyond a high schooler to, you know, spray paint something rude about a classmate or whatever. I get that. But, you know, I just felt like they were a little too one-dimensional and a little too, you know, a little mustache twisting. Exactly.
I get you. No, you know what? I can't fault you that. I can absolutely positively see that. As somebody who was on the end of bullying, they kind of look like that to me. So maybe that's why I didn't have much of a problem. But
how about you? Who asked you?
Well, honestly, all the performances were great, but and I know where she was coming from with her characterization, and I thought her performance was great, but it got a little over the top when Winona Ryder started doing the constant stammer voice. It just started grating on me after a while.
Yeah.
You know? and I understand where she was coming from. She's the desperate mother in a weird situation, everything like that. That's fine. I do get it. But it was almost too much at some points, and it started to really grate at me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's it. That's it. Like I said, that's a nitpick as well.
It's almost like when you're watching her, you're saying to yourself, like, how has nobody taken this woman out on a stretcher yet? It's almost like you're gonna watch her burn an ulcer through the lining in her stomach. Yeah, I agree with you there.
And how about for your consideration?
For my consideration, so many great things about this series, and it's hard to pick just one, but if I'm going to pick one little element that kind of just sort of shines like the little cherry on top, the score. I found that the opening credits and the score was so good, and it's almost like every time it played, when you're watching a new episode and the score starts to play, oh my God, is that great. That's one of those that I sort of like found on YouTube, and I'll just sort of listen to it once in a while because I just love that stuff. And again, such a blast from the 80s, that chills synthesizer. Oh my God, it's just really good and complements the series and the story perfectly, and just in itself is just really, really good. I just, that to me was like just the little thing that notches it up a little bit more.
Netflix has this thing now where when the opening credits of one of their TV series plays, you have the option to like skip the intro. And I'm like, why would I want to skip this intro?
Right?
This music is awesome.
Seriously.
You know?
Never.
That's Kyle Dixon and Michael Stein, just so that we're aware.
Very good
Kyle
stuff.
Dixon, Michael Stein. Oh, excellent stuff. I'm definitely can see that. To me, for your consideration is how each character has depth. It didn't matter. I mean, with regards to the bullies, it seems for whatever reason bullies will always be one-dimensional, and that's just the way it is. But no matter who was in the movie, whether it was a good guy or a bad guy, or it was somebody from the Hawkins lab or something like that, they all had depth. And I love that. I love when a character has depth. I think that's such... I feel like it's such an easy thing to be able to do, but it astounds me how often it doesn't happen. So the fact that each character had depth and had movement and motion just was beautiful and made me happy.
I totally agree with that. I agree with that 100%. Even a lot of supporting characters, like you get to know them just a little bit. And I even like how even the people we like still have little chinks in their armor. Like it's funny, like at one point in the middle, like halfway through the series or whatever, or almost halfway maybe, when the Sheriff Hopper is going to the library, and of course he goes there and he says, "Oh, hey, so-and-so," and the librarian starts to tell him off, and it's like, and the other guys are looking at him going like, "Really, Chief, the librarian?" And he's like, "Come on, what are you gonna do?" Whatever. So it was so I thought that, so even the people we like still have little character flaws, so that adds to that richness of the characters
and believable character flaws.
Yes.
Not like little whimsies or anything like that. Like these are we've walked into these people's lives that they've already lived, and it's evident that they've lived them.
Agreed, absolutely. Before we finish off, there's one person I forgot to mention, and I can't believe I didn't mention it yet. Poor Barb. This poor girl, boy, she just gets no respect at all.
Hey, guys. What the f***? You forget about something? You forget about old Barb? Nancy's friend? Sitting on the diving board? Trapped in the upside down for the past 2 months? All right, Barb. Nah.
At least there was a little bit of Nancy going like, "Hey, how about Barb too? Can you find Barb too? As long as we're looking for the other kid." But she was just like, it was almost like from the beginning, she was like, "It's like Barb is never gonna make it."
Well, the funny part is with the rewatch of the series, I actually don't see what the problem is. I felt that Nancy's motivation was to find Barb. It just happened to intersect with Jonathan's motivation to find Will. And they had that scene where they recreated the bathtub in the gym, and the first person that 11 finds is Barb's body.
Right. Yeah. No.
So
that's true. But it is funny. I do say to myself like when they did that skit like about like, "Hey, everybody forgot about old Barb." I laughed because I did feel like the whole series does focus on Will, The friends are all looking for Will. Winona Ryder, it's all about her looking for her son. And I'm not knocking this at all. It's not a ding. But when you do look at it in that context, I mean, you never find you never see Barb's parents. You never see the sheriff.
Yeah, okay.
The sheriff is never asking like, oh, what about Barb? Well, where was she? What is she doing? What does she look like? What is she this? It was really, this was a show about Will. And, it is just poor Barb is just kind of like off to the side. Like,
Rush to the side.
Yeah, I mean, she was basically the red shirt of the series, so.
An extended red shirt. You got to know the red shirt, so you kind of liked it
Yeah.
and didn't like that she died.
Right. Yeah, I got it. And he sort of felt for a little bit because she felt a little left out, She was Nancy's friend, but nobody's really paying attention to her. She's just there because Nancy brought her and stuff. And, it's like, she was the awkward friend and stuff. So you felt for her a little bit.
Yeah, poor Barb. She's doing all right. She's on that Riverdale TV show now. All right. And with that,
my friend,
next week.
So what's next week? Are we up to Thor?
Thor! We are at Thor!
Wow.
The first Thor!
We will be back. Yeah, the Thor series starts in Thor and then the Dark World. And then we'll be just in time for Thor Ragnarok.
Yep. It's gonna be I hope it's a good one. Oh God, I hope they don't screw it up.
It looks.
But when we go through the reviews of Thor, you'll understand why I mean that. But please.
Yeah. Okay. I'm telling you, I think Thor Ragnarok that's probably, along with Spider-Man, but maybe even more so, I think Thor Ragnarok is the one all year long that I was the most excited for.
Oh, good.
I think that was
bad. I hope that doesn't come back to haunt you.
Well, me too. But that for me was my most anticipated movie of the year. Once I saw the first trailer for that, I was hooked.
Well, then we shall talk about it over the next 3 weeks, so
fasten your seatbelts. All right, my friend.
All right, my man.
See you here next week.
Yep, see you next week. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode. And be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube and VidMe for spoiler-free reviews of new releases, as well as in-depth discussions of current and classic cinema. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider becoming a patron. You can find our page at patreon.com. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are used for commentary and critique, and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.